Well, good morning and happy new year, everyone. I'd like to call the January meeting of the Teton County Library Board to order. I would move to approve the January 19th, 2023 regular board meeting agenda. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the next order of business is the approval of the minutes. We have the December 16th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes. I will take a motion to approve them.
So moved.
You approve them, please?
Bueller. I can second my own motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I second Nina's motion.
I didn't hear you. Any discussion, changes, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public comment on matters not on the agenda. I think we have
one visitor.
Dale. Would you like to make any kind of comments? Raise your hand if you would. I'm sorry, you're muted right now.
I guess not.
I guess not. All right, hearing none. Correspondence, we do have some correspondence which are subject to the pending change in the policies for the library. I believe that's correct. Is that, do you have anything in addition to that? So that will be discussed, next month when we're going to.
Oh, no, we have this letter, this email that came from jail.
Oh,
The
that's right.
other correspondence does
Right.
wait until the.
and we do have a correspondence that's in the, as part of the public record that came from Dale after following our last meeting. So, without any other correspondence, let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody other than I want to pull anything from the consent agenda? I would like to pull the consolidated P&L for from the agenda, from the consent agenda. Okay. So I have a question on our, what are the Wyoming library purchases materials versus our own purchasing materials, since they both form part of our collections budget, and I haven't seen, at least I haven't paid attention enough to see that line item in the past, so.
So that is, so the Wyoming State Library has a program for libraries that are part of the consortium, in which they will actually order materials that we tell them what to order. So they don't pick the titles, but they get a better discount with a couple of the big book vendors. So one of our primary vendors that we use here is called Ingram. With the Wyoming State Library, we got maybe about 2 to 3% better value than we did on our own. So last year, we decided that we would start using what's called the Central Acquisitions Program, which is the Wyoming State Library. And what we're doing is we're sending money from our books budget and our media budget to them on roughly a quarterly basis. So in today's vouchers, there was also a check that we're sending over to them. So it's really just part of our basic budget. And actually there is that line item that should probably just be moved into the regular books. So that's just what it is us just sending them a check, but then we tell them which titles to purchase.
So it's a cheaper way of buying, adding to our collection.
Yeah, and so I will change that. There is that amount that's sitting in that line that.
Maybe if we could just have that top line and then the two subcategories underneath it to see how much we're shipping through, that would be great.
Okay,
It helps tracking how we are versus our budget.
okay.
Super.
And one other piece of information about the central acquisitions, when we put money on account at the state library, it does carry over from year to year. So if we happen to not spend a little bit of our money, instead of it going back to the county's general fund, it stays there and we get to spend it next year.
Thank you. My other question is, have we been, so we budget for health insurance based on the rates that we know about in January, February of the fiscal year. What's happened to our health insurance rates going for this upcoming calendar year?
I have not heard anything. I don't know, Kip, if you've heard anything, but we
There's
can.
been no actual statement from the county. I don't know if you've heard anything. I know that the library itself, in anticipation of an increase, did put in an 8% contingency in case it goes up that much. I've heard some places are seeing double digits increases, so I don't know, but we do have a contingency of 8%, but maybe Scott from HR might know something.
Yeah, if I may, we typically don't determine those rates, and it's a calendar year, I believe. On how we determine those rates, it kind of goes with when we do our open enrollment, and the new rates and the new plans are always effective January 1, so it does make budgeting a little bit more difficult because most of us have the July to June budget year, so it's a little bit off, but as I work with our insurance consultants, and Kip, I could ask a more formal question to get you more
So
solid.
you don't
numbers.
have a rate yet for this?
No, we don't.
This calendar year.
But what I'm told, we're a self-funded plan, which it makes our renewal rates much cheaper than if we were like in a pooled plan with a bunch of other employers. So one of the advantages of those self-funded plans is that I think it's very likely we'll see a single digit increase.
When do you anticipate?
I would say we probably won't know too much until the summer.
Till summer for this current fiscal?
Oh, this current fiscal year,
Yeah,
it's
so-
already developed.
Well, so that's what I was asking,
Okay.
which is, we're dealing with a budget that was set in February of 2022.
Okay.
Based on the rates that we had as of the January 1st, 2022.
Mhm.
We're now into the calendar year 2023. Do we know what our rates went up to?
Yes,
For this,
I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but I could do some digging and make sure you all have the correct figures.
that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't remember ever seeing.
Thanks very
anyone
much.
else, so,
Yeah.
And probably most other departments don't have to worry about.
Well,
it.
you and some of the other jointly funded ones, they're all just a little bit different. Right.
Those are the questions that I had. Are there are there any other questions on the budget that I should have asked that I didn't ask? I mean, on our operating results.
Not that I'm aware of.
They were
but-
covered in you were very
The
clear in
report was pretty
in the financial report, so thank you. Anybody else have any questions on the financials? Then I will move to approve the consent agenda as discussed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, let's move forward. Library table shared workspace use agreement. Staff report.
And I had invited Leah Schlachter to come and just sort of talk about the library table in addition to this report. And I haven't seen her yet, so I need to, can we push this down the agenda just a minute?
Certainly.
Okay.
Teton County Policy Manual. Staff report.
Sure, it didn't really know what to write in the staff report, so I struggled a little bit. The county, as you know, we talked about before, has a policy committee that annually meets and revises the county's HR policies. And there were extensive revisions this year to that manual. And in addition to that, in trying to house all of the county's various operational policies in one place, the county decided to combine the HR policy manual and operational policies into one manual called the policy manual. And on Abigail's advice, we are asking the board to adopt the new policy manual. With some exceptions, there are 4 policies in the operational side that don't apply to the library. We have our own internal policies or internal practices that supplant those pieces, so those are outlined. So What I would like to do is maybe just ask Abigail to explain why the board is being asked to approve.
Yeah, because this is the first time I can remember that we've been asked to approve a county, to ratify the county's policy for our library, I guess.
Actually, it's my understanding that it's not the first time,
Certainly in my experience.
mine as well, but, I think we started around the same time. It's my understanding that this did happen before, where some of the confusion perhaps may have arisen is because I think the last policy manual technically is like the 2020 edition, and then there were revisions made to that edition in 2021 and early 2022. And this is an entirely new edition, so to speak. So it's the 2023 edition. If you look at it underneath, it'll say the edition, and I have the old ones here where you can sort of see that pattern. So any revisions made in between years until a major rewrite, I'm not sure have officially come before you in the past, but I believe the overall document when it's first adopted has. So.
Okay. How do you feel? Because I feel somewhat have we adopted these as of January 1st? Are we operating under these as of January 1st internally?
Yes. The commissioners did approve and
So it applies to all the county
it would
employees.
apply to all county employees.
What about the exceptions?
Those would become exceptions today.
Okay, so just philosophically, I have a challenge with
Well, technically, I
approving
guess,
something in a retroactive way that's already been done as opposed to ratifying something. Is that distinction important?
I don't. If you prefer the word ratify, you can use ratify. I mean, just it might also be helpful to know that all of the county departments of the directors, sign off on this. Of course, they don't have the authority to
Right.
carve out exceptions because they're under the control and the authority of the Board of County Commissioners, but the independent elected officers in a county, the clerk, the treasurer, the sheriff, the county attorney, are in a similar situation probably to you folks, where they adopted a little more formally by, resolution or something like that. And also several of them carved out exceptions that were appropriate for those particular.
So are we really
offices.
approving the exceptions to the policy or are we approving the policy?
You're approving the entire policy with those exceptions carved out for you, so they would not apply to you. And there was some discussion about how to achieve that. For example, we hypothetically could have taken the policy manual back to the Board of County Commissioners and had an appendix saying, well, the following policies don't apply to the library and these policies don't apply to, the sheriff. But it was thought that an easier way to do it was to leave this intact and have each organization just have a resolution where they adopt this, but then have their carve outs.
I personally don't have any issue with this. I have an issue with the precedence of approving something that's already been enacted, as opposed to sort of saying, we're gonna approve it as of effective as of today, or we're gonna ratify actions that were already taken. It's angels on the head of a pen kind of thing, but I think the precedent of approving something that's already been in place is kind of silly.
I don't have the resolution in front of me, but I probably would not be terrible.
Can I say, well, I have it, can I make a motion that the board ratify the use agreement between the library, move to ratify the resolution adopting the 2023 Teton County Policy Manual, except for those policies that set forth in the presented resolution. Is that okay?
I would switch those around and say I move to approve the resolution ratifying.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'll restate that. That's okay. I don't know if everybody on the board understands my issue, but we are being asked to approve something that became effective January 1st. And so if we didn't approve it, doesn't make sense to me. So I'd rather approve it effective as of today because that's where our authority is. So I'm changing approve to ratify just because of precedence issues for, issues that might be more substantive in the future. That's my concern. All right.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
I was just gonna say, this was my first round going through the policy manual. And it was actually a very interesting and interactive process. Kip was a part of the committee that put this stuff together. And it was a very collaborative process to get all that stuff. And we're gonna continue with that trend. One thing I did notice though, that I would like to do different this next year is we didn't give ourselves enough time.
Yeah.
To look at this, we had the board approve it. I believe it was their December 6th meeting. So we basically had 3 weeks with holidays to implement all the changes. And as you know, the staff members here, it took us a little bit longer than that to get our new leave policies and all that stuff set up. I'm hoping to give us more time next year. Cool. So maybe your board would see this in November.
Perfect.
And then you're able to make decisions, not retroactively, but proactively.
Perfect. Okay, how am I supposed to read this resolution?
I think that's,
Okay. So I will move to approve the resolution ratifying the 2023 Teton County Policy Manual, except for those policies that set forth in the presented resolution. May I please have a second to that?
I second that, I think. So,
Now, do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, let's go back to the library table shared workspace use agreement.
sure.
Staff report.
So, actually, I will ask Leah just to, explain what the library table is and how it came about and how it's doing so far and.
Hi, I'm Leah. I'm the adult program coordinator, and the library table is a experimental expansion of workspace in the library, and it actually started percolating in 2019. And we had a committee that explored this concept, and we were ready to go with a pilot project in a restaurant what the basic concept is we are renting out daytime restaurant space in a restaurant that is open for business only at night, and transforming that private space into public access space, and turning it into public shared workspace for the hours that they're not open. So this one is from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so the idea is to expand our library campus without building new infrastructure, and we're utilizing infrastructure that already exists and is sitting vacant out in the community. And it's so, like I said, it started in 2019 and then the pandemic hit, and so it's put on hold. And then we started it back up again, and with the community survey and having all of these comments about wanting a Wilson presence, we thought to start the pilot project on the West Bank, and we were thrilled to have excited partners in the Calico who wanted to experiment with us with this. So we are doing that, and we just opened in last week. So today, this is the second week, or in the middle of the second week. And it's going really well. It's kind of slow there's not a lot of foot traffic, so people aren't stumbling across it, but we do have a flag out there. And we've had articles, and we've had like 4 to 5 people a day, new people. We had people come in right as we opened on the first day, which is exciting. And it's been a powder day all last week in Jackson, so they're not going to be inside early in the daytime. So hopefully this high pressure system will bring people in, and we're gonna do more outreach in advertising and creative spaces, like reaching out to Silicon Couloir, the Chamber, and all the West. Oh, and so all these stories come in as people hear about it. And I've had the reporter from Buckrow, when she was interviewing me, she said that Persephone West Bank doesn't offer Wi-Fi. And so and she lives on the West Bank, and she says she never comes into town, so she will use it and bring all her friends. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that the coffee shop don't even want workers there, right? So we are helping them by not like having their people bring their hotspots to their coffee shops and clogging up their business spaces. And then another friend, when she was in here, she said, and she has recently moved to Idaho and she comes into town to work and she does freelance type stuff. And she said, that, yeah, there is, not only does West Bank Persephone not offer Wi-Fi, there is no free Wi-Fi access on in Wilson or the Village Road, except for Pearl Street Bagels, and there's no place to sit. So there is this kind of like Wi-Fi desert out there. And the state library saw this and they shared and they're really excited. WLA, Wyoming Library Association, is really excited and shared it. And I was talking to Conrado Salvador from the state library, and he was asking me about it and he said, oh, how far away is the Calico from the library to go? Oh, 7 miles. And he just kind of paused like, oh, that's not far away. And in terms of like Wyoming standards, and I was like, no, it is. It really is very far away. There's a lot of snow, there's a bridge, there's traffic, there's a Y, there's all these things. So it really does. And then, so the concept to not only utilizes unused space and transforms private space into public space, but theoretically, it cuts down on time, people's commute time, gas, emissions, wildlife collisions. So it like fits into the sustainability piece of our strategic plan, the access piece of our strategic plan, the diversity piece of our strategic plan, and hitting people who can't come all the way to town. And yeah, do you have any questions so far?
Sean,
I'm just curious about how that's staffed. And it sounds
so
fantastic.
Okay, so more logistics. We are open 3 days a week for this pilot project, and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's a 6-month pilot from January to June. And it's just at the Calico, and we are being funded by the foundation to pay our rent and our staff person. And so how is it? So we're hiring a contract. I don't know what the designation is.
We've hired a temporary part-time library assistant for the position. And it took a little work with HR to get that to work. But that's where we landed. So we've hired someone into a 6-month temporary position. And they can't, in a temporary position, you can't work beyond 6 months. So it will terminate at that point.
Right. Yeah.
And
And while we're talking about staffing, just so you know, the person is funded through the foundation, but it will come through our regular payroll, but then we'll be requesting a reimbursement every month, so.
yeah, I have a question. Since it's a pilot program, do you have an idea of the metrics that you would have at the end of that pilot program to say, this is really successful, we should continue it? Or it's really not, we should adjust things? Do you have an idea with Calico what would make this a success?
No, we don't like to, we didn't say like, oh, if we get 20 people a day or anything like
Right.
that. I think this is so experimental for both parties that we just want to see what it feels like, what it looks like. And the Calico, the Sidewinders is moving in next door and they're doing lunch. So the Calico doesn't know what they want to do with their business, if they want to like do lunch as well or do a food truck or that. So they're just trying to keep their options open. And same with us, like, oh, maybe nobody uses it, who knows, right? So I think just to see what happens. So no, there's no metrics. And I think we all kind of will know if it's like working for each party.
Yeah.
Because the strategic plan, the survey, and the
Right.
community retreat does ask for some sort of library presence on the West Bank, that at some point we do probably need to survey the people that are coming in and say, what would you like? What does library service look like to you over here? Is this meeting your need? Do you need more library service than this? So I think there should be some sort of survey of the users,
We got-
before we finish that.
We got good press from,
Yeah.
about the
it looks
opening.
great on the front page.
hopefully can figure out some more. I see Diana's on the Zoom. We'll figure out a way to continue to remind people that that presence is there. And, you know, as you said, we're
Well, right, and as to the library service, so the very first two people that walked in right away, they had like this Zoom call that they had to do before they went skiing. And then, of course, they wanted printing, right? And then the calico was like, will you print it? And I was like, I would say no, but if she wants to do it, then okay, but tell the people like, don't expect it, like this, you know, and I was like, you know, so like people do
You're
want the
figuring it out.
services. So like maybe we do learn that just a workspace isn't enough and people aren't gonna come if it's just a workspace and they need printing and they need book returns and they need library cards and that kind of stuff, and then we'll know, right?
Right.
So maybe there's not enough to attract them, but I think if people know, they will come. Like, I think a lot of people here already use it just as the workspace, or people at picnic and that kind of stuff. But back to the employee, we hired Jennifer Love, and she is a longtime Jackson resident, and she is a library volunteer. She lives out on that end, and she also has a background in restaurant work, so it was a nice combination of somebody to like keep the space, who knows the needs of both sides, a restaurant and the library. So we're excited to have that in place too.
Well, I think it's a really cool idea, and I love trying things, and even if it fails, but then you know what can work. And I wonder if there's a possibility of like the Wilson School might be willing to put something into their email or into the backpacks of all the little kids that are out there for parents. And then, I mean, this is where I get into trouble because I'm not a staff member. But then I start to wonder if people start doing lunch that in the summertime, like that lawn is so underutilized between Calico and Sidewinders that you could have like a story time out there for kids or something, or I don't know. So I just think the possibilities are endless, and even if it doesn't work in its current form, that it could grow and change, and I look forward to hearing more about it.
Is there,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
is there some signage at Stilson's or even out at the village about it? 'Cause that might be another way to folks.
No, there is, no, I don't know, I could ask to put something, I don't know if
There's
there's,
a bulletin board
Is it
inside of the Stilson bus station.
okay, and then Jennifer's partner, he works at the village, and she said he would put up signs in the locker room and stuff like that. But we do have a sign at Pearl Street Bagels, Wilson, and Hungry Jack's, and then we're going to give the Jackson Book Gallery or the Wilson Book Gallery some signage, and then I'm gonna ask West Bank Persephone if they want a little something by their register to just say, to guide people there, but they have a look, so I don't know if they want our.
I'm not sure we're allowed to put things in the post office, but it's such a casual Wilson PO. We might talk with the postmistress there.
Yeah, I think it just needs to, like, and we're going to put ads in the daily
Oh,
for a little while and get people there.
well, maybe all I was gonna say, Stan, is maybe we could do a twofer if we ever get the curative letter and temporarily put it in front of the Calico and then move it to the park, Parks and Rec, and then we'd have checkout services there as well.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt to offer free pizza and beer too.
Well, as with any partnership with an outside organization, we do need an MOU or a letter of agreement with the organization. And this one started out as a fairly informal letter of agreement, and
Until I got hold of it.
and then as we discovered, a private partnership is difficult when you're paying rent and concerned about insurance and things. And we learned a lot about the way Wyoming insurance laws work. So our agreement went from a page to 4 or 5 pages. And with the help of Abigail, I think we covered all of our bases. And you've seen the agreement. I won't go into it unless you would like to go into detail.
Well, let me move it, and then if anybody wants to go into detail, they can ask.
Okay.
So I will move that the board approve the use agreement between the library and Calico Restaurant with an effective retroactive date of January 10th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing
Peter,
none? Oh,
Peter.
sorry. Yeah.
Do you want to ratify it?
This one needs
This one needs to be approved, but I think it's underneath the budget amount that KIP has a single authority to do, especially since Foundation is doing it. But since I don't know whether you count the temporary PTLA in the budget or not, so I don't know whether it's under the 5,000 or not. But technically, if it was under 5,000, presumably he could do it on his own without our approval.
This is a bit more involved, I guess, wider in scope than ordering computers or something that's a little more routine library day to day. And it is opening up what is a library space in a different location that is not owned by the library or the county. So it's more appropriate for the board.
Hearing the suggestion from the county attorney, is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Director's report.
Sure. There is my director's report. It's very long, but there's not really a whole lot that I want to highlight in the report. Probably staffing is the most important one again. We have successfully hired 3 new library pages, all high school students, which is a good program for us to have. They hopefully 2 of them are in 9th grade, so hopefully they'll be with us for a few years yet. And then the other piece is, as we talked before, about the new HR policy, we created a new limited benefit part-time position in the county. So anyone who works 15 to 29 hours would qualify for earning 4 hours of paid holiday leave anytime there's a paid one of the 11 paid holidays that the county observes, and everybody would earn 3 hours of sick time per month. And so we put that out to our PTLAs, and virtually every one of them would like to be able to achieve that benefit, earn that benefit every month. So we already had most of them working at 15 or more hours. There were 3 that do not, and 1 is unable to for housing reasons. The other 2 both work in Alta, and they would like to bump up to 15 hours. They had been working 6 hours per week, and they're going to bump up to 15, which also gets into another issue that we've had in Alta is sort of a concern of safety in the building. Even though Alta's relatively quiet and safe, there's oftentimes only 1 person in the building. And I just think that's not a safe environment for anyone. So with the increase in 15 hours, we're also going to hire another part-time library assistant for Alta, and that will allow us to always have 2 people in the building during open hours. And this also gives Eva, as the branch manager, more opportunity to work on her own projects without being interrupted by patrons. And also may allow for additional programming in the branch, which is something that the community asked for during their retreat. So that's the update on PTLAs. And then anything else, you mentioned the COVID curative kiosk. We were expecting a gift letter from them yesterday. 5 o'clock came and went and there's still nothing. So I don't know when they're going to do that. I guess we're pushed into February at this point. And discussing receipt of that gift. Everything else in the report is either covered later on the agenda or just routine monthly.
I have one question.
Sure.
Rick has somebody helping him 1 day a week, I think.
Yes, that was all we were able to hire.
And, okay, and so if that individual would choose to work 15 hours, which I assume he's not, or she's not, would they fall under the new HR policy as well?
Yes.
Okay. It's not just for PTLAs, it's for any part-time employee.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So even I guess the library pages could
Correct.
qualify for that, but I doubt they hit 15 hours there.
Any other questions for Kip? Okay.
I just want to highlight the Sunday hours. Man, am I loving those. So thanks for bringing those back.
We've had 2 of them so far. This past one was a little busier than the first one, so I think people are starting to learn. I've heard it's pretty casual. People are just looking for a place to hang out and read or study or work or whatever, so.
When I drove by on Sunday, people were figuring out the hours because there were clearly people waiting to get in a little early. But it's all good. It's great.
There's always been people waiting to get in. I remember seeing lines always, so.
Good.
Thanks.
We did not have a foundation report in the.
It
Yeah,
came very late last
But I
night.
didn't see it.
It
So
was uploaded this morning. The foundation report was very short. Diana is on vacation today, so she's unable to be here, but she did ask that I mention that they thank the board for the permission to serve alcohol last Friday night at an event. The event was very well attended. The people who were here seemed to have a really good time. It was a local author and Dr. Annie Fan, who's written a book called Brain Health. And a lot of people cooked recipes from the book. We served wine over by the fireplace. It was a nice little social hour. And then the Ordway was used for a community interview. And it was really nice. And also she wanted me to mention that the foundation is now in the throes of strategic planning. And I'm on the planning committee. We had a kickoff meeting 4 weeks ago at this point, and now they're getting ready to release a community survey, which is, but it's going well. And we've had some good conversations about the process. So.
Great. Buddy on from Friends.
Lori's report was very short.
It was very short, yes. Moving on, the board committee reports, the bylaws subcommittee.
That's either Lisa or Stan.
Yeah, I'm happy to just report that Kip and Stan and I met a week or 2 ago. And I think Stan and I were really impressed by the work Kip had done to consolidate some older documents and make sure it was all in one place, and then also encompassed some things that perhaps were missing. Stan, I think you had some discussion and you and Kip talked. I don't know if you want to mention that specifically, but we felt comfortable giving it to Abigail to sort of finalize. So nice job, Kip.
Thank you.
So,
Do
do you think we're gonna be, I guess I'll ask either of you two or Abigail, when do you think we'll be in a position to see the results of that work that you guys have been doing? Next month or March?
Probably March.
March?
Yeah.
Okay, March, super. thank you guys for doing that. That's terrific. Strategic plan update.
This is getting, I don't know, a little humorous at this point. The process is still moving forward. All of the library's leadership teams, managers have met with their respective teams, gone over the goals and objectives, and they've started to identify, well, they have identified a lot of tasks that would, over the next 3 to 5 years, help us accomplish those goals. Then the holidays came, then everyone has decided to be sick for extended periods sometimes. So we've slowed a little bit. The leadership team is meeting tomorrow for a few hours to sort of prioritize, decide what years these tasks can happen. Are they feasible? What's the cost? So we hope to have that tied up tomorrow, tomorrow afternoon. And then Diana and I will start to throw together, right? Put together the final draft of the plan. And so we'll need to have a meeting of the planning committee to review it and to make their comments, and it'll be ready for submission to the board. We could have a special meeting probably the week of the 6th of February to review and ratify or approve or adopt. Or we could give everybody a little comfortable time to digest it and have it on
A week
a week
later.
later in the regular board meeting for February. So that would be my recommendation. But of course, that's up to the board.
So you're anticipating the strategic planning working group meeting sometime next week?
Late next week would be ideal. The first week of February would be the fallback.
So, if I
I
remember
want to
right,
give the board enough time to.
what is the feeling of the board? To just have instead of scheduling a special meeting, to have this all discussion in time, with some time to think through and read the strategic planning document and have it at the regular board meeting in February? It's the 16th.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer.
I will note that we've had 2 4-day holiday weekends, and we've had 1 3-day holiday weekend and illness, so it's quite understandable when you guys it's still rapid results planning relative to the years it sometimes takes libraries to do this, so.
We're not too far off our calendar.
So is everybody comfortable with having this at the board meeting in February? All right, there's your guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Matters for board members, library staff, and supporting organizations. Does anybody on the board have any other matters they want to bring up? I have one. I asked Kip to think about an additional DEI training sometime this spring. And there are a number, and this is to be somewhat more specific than the very good overview we had last month. But we're talking about either having one in March with the same consultant, either in March or May. My preference would be May, but I would solicit what the board's thinking is. An initial proposal, or at least thought, is there's something called radical, let's see if I get this correctly, radical empathy strategies for inclusive leadership. And it's an intriguing enough title that I'd like to understand a little bit more about it, but I would love somebody plus me to join me in thinking through the various topics that we might be able to discuss. So do I have a willing volunteer before I nominate somebody to work with me on what that training should be?
I'm happy to do it, Peter. I do a lot of this at my work.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
So, is the sentiment, is everybody all right with May as being the time frame for doing that, the May board meeting? And doing it right after that board meeting?
Yeah.
Does that seem all right with you?
I think May is better than March. And would this be offered for all the boards, the tri-board?
I would think so. I think the staff is undergoing an additional training in
Leadership.
leadership
to
team,
this
yeah.
one, as
And
well.
at the same time, or
We're scheduled for April 4th.
April 4th. Okay. Spring break.
Nobody's off.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope our training's open to everyone that's affiliated with the library, so.
Yeah, that's what we did in the last
Yeah.
one.
Perfect. Okay. Let me get back to my agenda somewhere here. Apologize. There we go. Does anybody else have any other issues they want to bring up?
I just have
Moving
a,
forward, payment of library. Oh, sorry.
I
Sam,
do
go
have a
ahead.
question. I ran into Larry Jorgensen about 2 weeks ago, and I just was curious about what was happening with the missing plaque.
Ah.
We've looked everywhere. We've talked to Dale, we've talked to Deb Adams. We do not have any information on the plaque. We have no pictures of the plaque. So I don't know. I don't even know how we would recreate it because we don't know what was on it.
And do we know who might have originally produced it?
Dale seems to have her hand up and probably knows, so. Dale.
You know, I did suggest one other place to look, Kip. I'm not sure if anybody got to it yet. In that
Room behind the.
yeah, behind the book nook. And then the other place you could look for a facsimile of the plaque would be in the foundation records, because they're the ones that did that. In other words, they had it, they paid for it and they had it, you know, set up. They contracted with someone, and then the board, of course, looked at it. But there might be, you know, a picture of it or something in some of their old records, which I have just, and I just thought of that. You know, I have been trying to think of where that thing could be, but they might have a picture.
We did look at the mock, there's nothing there. But thanks for the foundation tip. We'll talk to Diana when she's back next week and see if they have any record of that.
Dale, do you know the year?
The year would have been 1997.
Wow. Seems like yesterday, actually, but it's.
Here's the building open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the year the building opens.
Was it wood?
The plaque would have probably been bronze or some sort of, yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
We're not giving up yet, Sam.
Well, I mean,
All
I
right,
was sorry, so I just want to make sure we're still on track with trying to find it, so.
Well, Stan, you can tell Larry that we're looking under every book as opposed to rock.
I may ask him if he has a picture of it.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Moving on, the payment of library vouchers, Lisa.
Yes, let me find the motion. I did find one little typo. So I don't know if I should move. I don't know, Stella, how you'd like me to.
Move it with
So-
discretion.
It was corrected.
I did ask Lindsay to correct that this morning, and we can do one of two things. Either we can attach the corrected voucher to the voucher you and Kip signed yesterday. Or since Peter's here, we could run and bring it to Peter to sign. I don't know. how you
I'm
want
happy to sign it, if that's okay with you, Lisa.
That's great. So should I just move forward with the motion as written?
Yeah,
Okay, so I move to approve the payment of library vouchers.
I will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I will move to go into executive session, discuss a personnel matter in accordance with Wyoming statute 164405, and at the same time reference the library board planning calendar if anybody's curious as to why. Do I have a second of that motion?
Second,
Bye-bye.
All in favor?
No, I have a discussion.
Oh,
Stan,
Aye.
I'm going to ask Abigail to tell you what you need to do as far as taking notes. This is your first executive session as secretary, so you will have to take minutes, and I'm not sure what goes in
we
those.
were recording.
I thought we recorded them on a tape recorder.
We do not.
We don't anymore?
We don't do that.
We used to.
We
The
used to.
last couple of them, Dale where it was taking notes.
Okay.
So I know that you don't take action.
Right.
And I know that the minutes have to be submitted to the
Are we
county
still
clerk.
recording this? Yeah, okay.
To you.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I assume when you, out of curiosity, when you used to record it,
They're in the county vault,
was it a separate
completely separate.
Zoom meeting? So
No, it was a separate tape recording and that
Oh,
we
okay.
made from a hand
Yeah.
recorder and it went into the vault in the county.
Okay,
And we discovered that it was never actually recording anything.
well, I mean, old school handwritten is
Yes.
fine.
And they were supposed to go to the county clerk and they weren't, the recordings didn't go to the county clerk.
So let me follow up with Stan afterwards, but yeah, written minutes, and then of course, I think you never take action
never
in an
take action.
executive session, you come back into
Into
your
a regular
regular
session and we adjourn.
meeting. Adjourn the executive session, take whatever action might be warranted or
Usually
necessary.
we state no action was taken.
Exactly. And then the minutes go,
You've been very penurious in your,
so.
you take minutes the way I love them, Stan. Bullet points, so it's perfect, so.
Action item.
So now we've had the discussion.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. I would make a motion to re-enter the normal board business from the executive session where no action was taken. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I will so move.
I will second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. I will second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.